97.1theticket.com. I am Evan Jankens, and this morning it is a pleasure to be joined by the Giant Omos, the WWE legend. And before we start talking about SummerSlam, because that is why you're here, and SummerSlam is coming to Detroit, Michigan at Ford Field, I have my seats 13 rows from the ring, believe it or not. So I will be super excited to go. But I need to talk about Backlash from last weekend real quick. I'm sitting there watching it on the Peacock Network, and Seth Rollins' damn music is just going on and on and on. And I'm like, can we just wrap this up? And there comes your big boot. And I'm like, thank you, man. Like, how do you sit there and just listen to that? Like, it's kind of like a knock on you. Like,
it is a knock on me. It's wasting my time. We're there for a fight, and you're not gonna sit there and take all the time that we have to fight. I came for a fight, and then come here to watch a concert, and people sing your song, right? And freaking you have your back turned to me, have some doggone respect for the Giant when he's in the ring. So no, so I had to put a stop to it.
All right, good. And now the only other thing I want to mention from that match is when he's diving between the ropes and he's coming after you. I'm like, what is he doing? Like, that's silly. Why would you try that? Then you catch him in the choke slam and choke slam him on the apron. I just want to say thank you. I'm not a Seth Rollins fan, as you can tell. So
I can tell. I can feel it. You're very welcome.
All right, but now talking about you a little bit, you're a very well-dressed man, and I've always appreciated that in wrestling when a wrestler shows up like he is there for business, right? So I want to know, between yourself, MVP, and Cody Rhodes, I line up your guys' closet. Who has the best wardrobe out of you three?
Ooh,
they're all tailored. I know they're all tailored suits.
They're all tailored suits. I have to go to MVP. I just started my suit collection about 2 years ago, and MVP has had a long run of suits before I started wearing suits. So I'll give it to MVP. He just knows how to, and I think I would say me, but he just knows how to. They said when you put a suit together, right? They have your suit in this custom. They're like certain little details, like the accessories that you add on to make the suit more complete. And I'm still trying to figure that out on how my taste is going to look like in that aspect. So he has it all down packed. The socks, the rings, the watch. What else? The pocket square, maybe a little accessory, on the jacket. So he's figured all that, the combination of different colors and know how to match the color of the tie. It's like a little color in like a jacket. So he knows all those little intricacies that I'm still learning. So I will give it to MVP.
You know what? You can probably end up one and upping them because, you guys are so unique where you get to travel to city after city after city. Think about all the cool, unique, like cufflinks you could get or pocket squares, stuff like that in each city. Now that's something where you might be able to get one up on them.
You know what? Thank you for that. I'll definitely keep that in the back of my mind.
Like, for instance, when you come to Detroit for SummerSlam, which is coming to Ford Field, go to a store called Shinola. You'll one up them there. Right downtown Detroit.
I've heard of Shinola. They make watches too, right?
Yep, they make watches, exactly. So, but let's talk about SummerSlam a little bit because you're coming off of, the biggest pay-per-view of the year at WrestleMania, facing arguably the biggest wrestler in all of wrestling in Brock Lesnar. How do you plan to up that for SummerSlam? Like, do you have a dream match? If you could face one guy at SummerSlam, who would it be? Who would you like to take out? Who would you like to erase from the WWE universe and just put your stamp? Omos was here in Detroit.
Does that have to be from any era or just my own?
You know what? Any era. I don't need to know about anybody right now. I know, maybe that hasn't lined up yet, but in any era, who would you like to match up in front of 65,000 people?
Undertaker.
Oh, could you imagine that stare down?
I just imagine the stare down, and then once we get rocking, his athleticism versus my athleticism, and just the things that we could do in that ring would be astonishing.
Well, you guys are pretty similar with your backgrounds, both playing basketball growing up. You played at a high level at USF in Division I basketball. And it's kind of funny that you brought this up because I wanted to ask. I don't know how much NBA you're watching nowadays.
Well, I watched the game last night. I was watching
Okay.
again last night. I've seen the curb stomps from Draymond Green.
Well, and that's what I want. So the WWE 2K23 video game. It's an amazing game. You can create wrestlers. I don't know if you saw what was going on in social media, but when Jokic had a little run in,
Jokic going, coming out of the ring, going to the sands, and I think he gave the owner like a
Matt
something. Yep. And then I saw the one with LeBron and John Morant. He gave him a choke slam outside the ring. And then I saw the stump in the corner from Draymond Green, which is pretty hilarious.
It really is. And so your background, playing at such a high level of D1 basketball, you came to the United States from Nigeria. So you had a big adjustment. But now when you get signed to WWE, you're wrestling on the main roster, what, a year and a half later? Like, you talk about just getting thrown in.
Yes. Pretty much, I always say this analogy. I was pretty much thrown into the frying pan. It was almost like, okay, are you going to become very delicious food, or are you going to become very terrible food? Terrible chicken, terrible fried chicken, or amazing fried chicken? And thank God, I keep on becoming an amazing fried chicken. Everybody just wants to keep on eating.
Now, I've always been curious with just professional wrestlers, because you were also a high-level athlete who has to watch a lot of film while preparing for your next opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go back and watch yourself in your matches, like let's say that Backlash match, or is it more like, I hear a lot of interviews with movie stars who say they will not go watch their performance back because they'll criticize it too much? Or do you look at it from the athletic standpoint of, hey, I made this mistake, I need to see why I made that mistake, can I correct that mistake?
That's how I look at it, right? So I always, I think that's the one thing that has, helped me get better, because, back in the days, guys just work like 280, 290 dates a year. And because of the time we're in, we don't work those amount of dates anymore. So the only way to get better faster is to watch your own tapes and see where you're making mistakes. And when you take critiques, I always keep have a note in my head when I go back and watch it, and I try to look for whatever critiques I was given and trying to find where I did that mistake and try to correct it next time I'm in there. So that's since I'm not able to be on 280 dates a year, travel over the country. We still do, but not as much as back in the day. And back in the day, that's how I got better and got experience. I had to figure out other ways to get better, quicker, and faster. So I always watch all my matches, not once, not twice, multiple times, just to see, okay, this is what happened. And as I've gotten better, I watch matches and I look like, this is what they're talking about here. I didn't do this here. I didn't show the expression. Like, I see things that I'm being critiqued on when I go back and watch my matches.
Now, I'm always curious about this question. You hear like NBA basketball players, they'll say, the first time I dunked a basketball, I was 13 years old. How old were you when you were 6 foot?
I think I was about 6 foot. I think I was about like 6 foot. I think I was like 6 foot. I think I was about 10. I think I was about 6 foot, and I think by the time I was 13, I was like 6'7". So it was like a 2-3 year time span. I just shot up like Jack in the Beanstalk.
Well, and then basketball was fitting, and I think you found your absolute calling in wrestling, and I can't wait to see you live in person, Detroit, Michigan. We're talking August 5th. We're talking SummerSlam. Like, I can't wait for it. I can't imagine what the stage is going to look like. I wasn't able to go to WrestleMania 23 when it was also at Ford Field. So, like, you have a 40-year-old grown man that is, like, to the moon ecstatic to come see this show. Can you just give the fans a little bit of maybe a tease of what we could expect to see? I know it's a few months away. I know there's some things that could happen in the meantime, but is there a little tease that you have for me? Maybe a little something you could sprinkle on?
I mean, SummerSlam, August 5th in Detroit, Motor City Field. It's going to be electrifying. I think with every pay-per-view that we've done, it's always raised the stakes over the last 2 years, ever since we came out of the pandemic. And I just think that SummerSlam is not going to be any exception to that rule. And, I don't know who's going to be on the card, but I know if I'm on the card, I got to go talk to my business partner, MVP, and we can move some stuff around. But you guys saw what happened at WrestleMania, and a Backlash, or it's going to be even 10 times better than that.
I can't wait. I have one last question for you.
Sure.
How the hell do you travel city to city? Are you flying? Do you have a special car? I don't know if people realize, people that are like our size, that are 5 foot, 6 foot, whatever, we will never deal what you have to deal with. I can fit into a Mazda Miata. I can fit into a Mini Cooper. Those are things that you can't do. How difficult or how easy have you made it to be able to travel so many dates a year? I mean, it's not easy.
It's not easy. It can be very challenging, but I think I have learned how to maneuver. So, I've been grateful that, whenever I travel, I do get first class seats. So that is one thing that is, that is helpful. It gets a little bit of leg room, even though someone of my size makes first class look like coach, right? But I'm still good for that. I still have a little bit of room to relax and stretch out my legs. And then for when we drive from city to city, typically I try to get SUVs. And that's the only way I can do it. Large SUVs, Durangos, Tahoes, Expeditions, Explorers, the Yukons.
What we need to do, we need to get you in contact with Shaq. I know WWE has worked with him in the past. I don't know if you've ever watched like the old Cribs episodes. This guy has cars on cars that are extended, and it's unbelievable. But the Giant Omos, I appreciate your time so much today. I look forward to seeing you at Ford Field in Detroit, August 5th. Freaking SummerSlam. I'm pumped. I know you are. I look forward to watching your career, and your arc is just going up and up and up. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure speaking with you this beautiful morning.